Okay, now we're going to hear from Patrick Gordon. Patrick is a childhood friend of Doug's, also a teammate, and both Patrick and Doug got into teaching at the same time. Pat Gordon was honored by Mayor Richard Riordan as one of LA's most inspirational teachers in 1999, as well as being the 2012 recipient of the Jaime Escalante Award for his instructional leadership for the success and diversity of the AP Social Science program at Gar High School.
Am I ready?
You're ready.
Well, I've decided after that introduction that I'm actually going to run for school board and endorse myself. But
awesome, I like it.
I appreciate the kind words, but this is obviously a night where we want to talk about Doug. And I am a childhood friend. I've known Doug for 43 years approximately, and his father was one of my first baseball coaches, and I have the opportunity to speak about Doug in a number of different ways and through a number of phases in our life. And one of those phases was our life as kids and young adults playing baseball. The other is, as was mentioned, our becoming teachers at approximately the same time and that journey, and also our journey as parents. I have one child, he has two, and my child and his oldest are in the same grade. They're both juniors. And we've been able to share, a lot of these things over the years together. As I mentioned, his dad was one of my first coaches, and I've actually played with Doug on teams. I've played against Doug on teams, and that's into college as well. And the one thing that I can say about Doug for sure, whether it's wiffle ball or an actual Little League game or whether it was a college game, Doug is competitive. Doug is competitive because he wants to reach the highest level of proficiency and to be the best that honestly he can be. And Doug always exuded that. Doug, to be honest with you, Doug was a pitcher and he was not always the hardest throwing pitcher. But Doug had to find ways to be successful, and he was an intellect when it came to baseball. And I think that's what makes him such a good coach as well. And I've been able to sit on the bench with him and watch him coach. Doug had an opportunity to go away and play college baseball. And I think for a lot of us that got a lot of accolades in high school, that got a lot of the attention, and you would have assumed that many of those players would have gone on to have, much more significant success. And the reality was that of the generation of those of us that played at Huntington together at Huntington Beach High School, Doug probably had as much, if not more, success than anybody that went through the school within about a 10-year period of time. Ended up playing NAIA baseball, and I think his first year was NAIA All-American, and that doesn't speak to his physical prowess. It speaks to the fact that he physically had tangible assets, but he really was a student of the game, and he was really passionate about learning how to be the best player. And I think that translated into what he did as a coach. And we both coached high school together. We both coached players that were probably better than us, but the goal was not just to make those players better and to give those players an opportunity. It was also to give those players that weren't going to play after high school a chance to improve themselves and appreciate the game and learn the game and how they could become successful. I think that translates into the career that Doug has had as a teacher, because to him, coaching, I think, was just teaching. And over the years, we've been able to share a lot. We both teach in the social sciences, and we've talked a lot about process and people and administration and just straight up communicating to kids in the classroom. And I know how passionate Doug is about that. I still remember Doug sharing a lesson that he does with Frank Baum's Wizard of Oz and relating it to populist movement in the late 1800s. And I still bring that up in my classes today. And it's something that through collaboration and through experience and through a passion for teaching, you don't just deliver information. It really is a craft. And I think he really does put his heart into it. I've also been witness to his service learning project Anchor, and I went to their banquet and saw him emceeing this event. And I talked to many of his students, and it's obvious that his passion for these kids to appreciate not just learn, not just get a grade, but to appreciate what they're contributing to as part of this community at Bolsa Grande High School, and whatever they might be involved with beyond high school, whether it be in the workplace or whether it be in college. And I know, as we both had kids and our kids started to get older, we've shared a lot of our fears and a lot of our hopes. And, just recently we've been sharing about our kids potentially wanting to play college sports and what kind of college they're going to go to. And I know that, we all want the best for our kids and we all want to support them and for them to be challenged, but I know he wants them to be happy. And I actually spoke to him recently about this run. And I said, well, I know why you're doing this. You're doing this for your kids. And then I kind of reflected on the fact that actually sounds selfish, that he's doing it for his kids. And I think that's why PTA presidents run for PTA, because they want something for their kids at that school. Doug doesn't need to do this. Doug has a lot of things he can be doing with his life, but I think honestly, he feels that what he might be doing for his kids is something that he'd be doing for somebody else's kids. And I think he's genuine in that regard, and really does care, or he wouldn't be doing this. Two things I will leave you with, and these last two things, I don't see eye to eye with Doug on a lot of things. We've had discussions and debates about economics, and we've had discussions and debates about politics. But that's less important to me. And what is most important is that he listens and he reflects. And he's willing to say, I understand where you're coming from. I see your point of view, and maybe even affect how he might view things as a result of the fact that he's able to reflect. And so few people today in this political environment we're in are able to reflect. And I think that has to be a really, really important characteristic for somebody that's going to be in a position like this. Last thing, and I appreciate your time. The last thing is, and I don't think he'll remember this, but I think this speaks to sort of Doug's character, and I think it speaks to his sort of commitment to relationships. Doug went off to play college baseball in Idaho and go to school, obviously. And I don't know how long he had been up there, but I remember vividly, and I'll never forget this. I may forget a lot of things, but I won't forget this. I got a letter from Doug, his first year up at College of Idaho, and it was a long letter. It was 2.5 pages long, just talking about the experience and what he was going through. And we had another mutual friend that was actually up there playing too. And this is not just having to flip through and thumb up with your thumb and click a like or hit an emoji. You actually have to sit down and write a letter. And he was a long way from home. And I think maybe it was a little bit of missing home and not so much missing me, but wanting to keep those connections. And so, I think he's a person that will listen, he will reflect, and he does truly care about his kids, his community, the schools his kids are going to, his students himself, his players. And I think that's always been reflected in all of these stages that I've experienced with Doug in these last 43 years. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak on his behalf. And I hope that for those of you that are voters, that are still voting, that you will consider Doug, because I think he would be a great independent voice. And he would listen to what you have to say and your perspective. So thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Patrick. That was excellent.
I'm Doug Euper, and I approve this message.